You are now tuned in to KNT Radio with special guest Cynthia Alvarado, prison abolitionist from Philly. Let's go, KNT Radio. K Brown is CEO. And you rocking with KNT Radio. You already know. I got my special guest. Let me add her, Cynthia Alvarado. We wanted to do this interview before, but they tried to hate on us. The internet, the storm was all blocking us. They didn't let us save it. So you know we had to bring her back on. You feel me? So shout out to her for coming on. Shout out to everybody that's watching KNT Radio from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? The real ones. You a real one. You know who you are. Welcome to KNT Radio. If you ain't never seen it before, I'm your host, K Brown, the CEO of KNT Entertainment, partner with Exotic Beauties Modeling. Shout out Dimples. If you need any models for your video, hit my homie Dimples. Strippers, models, hosts, radio girls, award show girls, bottle girls, whatever. Cover models and all that. You feel me? Let me put my homie on. Back. Welcome back. What up, Hayes? What up, pretty eyes? Oh, you got the coffee brewing and all that?
No,
I see you.
it's tea. It's not coffee. It's too late for coffee. It's tea.
Oh, okay. See, it is too late. You don't need to be bouncing. You already got that energy
I have
ready.
natural energy.
Uh-huh.
It's really nice to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's nice to see you, too. And if for the people that don't know who I am on your channel, that's tuning in. I'm K Brown, the CEO, host of KNT Radio Entertainment Business Podcast, where we give out that free game for the people that's trying to become successful and learn from the people that's actually successful. You know what I'm saying? And today's guest, I got my homie Cynthia Alvarado representing the big Philadelphia. You know what I'm saying? Introduce yourself. Tell them what you do.
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Cynthia Alvarado. I am a prison abolitionist, agitator, and advocate for the women that I left behind. I served 12 years in a state prison, wrongfully convicted. I was sentenced to life without parole, and I won my very last appeal, which less than 1% of the population wins. And I'm on a journey to basically end life without parole, hopefully around all of the world, and the death penalty and solitary confinement. Thank you.
That's dope. And I got a question. What makes you want to get rid of the death penalty? I mean, not the death penalty, but life without parole. I've seen a lot of people advocate for getting rid of the solitary confinement. And shout out to you. I see you in court working. You know what I'm saying? Going against solitary confinement. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know what solitary confinement is completely solitary in a whole 24 hours a day away from everybody. You know what I'm saying?
For sure. Completely.
And but explain what makes you want to get rid of life without parole.
So first of all, if we really want to talk about life without parole, it basically goes against, evolution and the reality that people could change and that people could evolve, right? There's people that commit a crime like 30 years ago. Let's say somebody committed a homicide. Hi, Shannon, I love you. Shut away on there. Hey, John, I love you. Sorry, but so let's say if somebody committed a crime 30 years ago, right? And they're sentenced to life without parole. After 30 years passes, they're not going to be the same person. So should we hold people accountable for one bad day, right? So my stance is that people could change. I believe in second chances, and other states are doing it already. So I believe that we need to jump on board with this progressive measure and have some compassion and love for people,
Word. So explain, like, what did you get out like on a technicality or something like that?
Actually, no. What happened was that one second, I need to get tissue, sorry.
Yo, like, you hearing from somebody that did 12 years upstate and got herself out.
You guys are gonna have to wait for some tissue. Wasn't prepared for that.
She's a real one here, so you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? She did a real. What up, Sterling?
After 11 long years, I was sitting on a federal I had my federal habeas petition sitting on a judge's desk. It was about like 3 years that I was in that level of court. And obviously it was excuse me?
Can you explain what that is? You said a habeas corpus?
Yeah, so a habeas corpus, what habeas corpus means is how can you legally detain a prisoner, right? So the habeas corpus will be something where your constitutional rights will be viewed at, right? Something that the state courts don't do, and it only happens on a federal level, right? So how could they legally detain me, right? If they misinstructed the jury on a charge, which would happen to me, that means that that was a violation. It was a constitutional violation because the way the jury responded was that they asked, can she be guilty for aiding after a crime, right? The problem with that, I wasn't charged for aiding after a crime. So when they responded that I could be, they misinstructed them, and that was a violation. And I won on the very last level, and I'm extremely grateful. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work, a lot of dedication, a lot of discipline, but hard work pays off.
So, and I wanted to talk to the people. You know, if you liking what you're hearing right now, look out for our new show on Bigo Live. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't have the Bigo app, it's Bigo Live on your phone. Download it. We're gonna have a new show called Uncommon Knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Me and my co-host Cynthia. You know what I mean? So if you want to catch that every Wednesday at 9 p.m., me and Cynthia on the Bigo app going live. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know nothing about the Bigo app, hit me. Definitely paper involved. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so true.
But we're gonna get back to we're gonna get away from the promotions to get rid to this beautiful lady right here. You feel me? But I want to get more into your story. Like, what age were you when you went in?
All right, I was 27 years old when I got arrested. I was 39 when I won, and obviously I'm 40 now. But so I was in there for 12 years. So if you could just do the math, like from 27 to 39.
So as going in at 20, was that your first time going in for that long stretch?
Before that, yeah, I never encountered jail. I never encountered prison. A little bit before, because I had, like I told you on the first interview that we did, I was in a fatal car accident that led me to an opioid addiction. And I tried to seek help with that. So I had a DUI before, but it was stemming from the same, the same unaddressed traumas that kept resurfacing. And I addressed those traumas. Prison did not help me. I want to make that clear for the record. What helped me was like my self-help books, my motivation, and the education that I taught myself. And I was able to address those traumas. So today I'm a lot better than what I was in the past.
Okay. Going in, was you scared? Like what was like your first thought? What was your thoughts when you was walking in and then they telling you like what is that feeling like when they tell you? I don't know too many people that like got to talk to like that literally heard the gavel bang and somebody say life without parole. Like what was it like for you? Like what like instantly when it happened? Like what was that like?
Well, honestly, like I went at first, like when it first hit, like I just looked back at my mom, and I seen that she was just she was crying, and my heart was broken into pieces, and of course I didn't want to cry, right? Because I was just convicted, and I felt like I needed to have a little bit of like pride, and I held myself together there, right? I didn't want to let my mom see me sad either, but it kind of felt as if my country threw me away. Right. It reminded me as a little girl when I didn't know how to articulate that, I always felt inadequate because of my surroundings, because of my economic, class and all of the unaddressed traumas that were passed down to me. So that day validated, that I was nothing in the eyes of society and that, I didn't really matter because everything that I felt as a child, I actually experienced that day. And it was kind of like they just put like a little nail in my coffin. And, that's how I kind of felt. And I went back to my county jail and I literally just walked in my cell and my roommate was like, what the hell happened at court? And I told her, I was like, they gave me life. And she was like, no, you're playing. Like, no, I was like, I would never play about that. I was like, they gave me life. Like, and it was just emotions just like flowing through me. Like, I felt like I was just wanted to sit there and just die.
Word. Like, so did you have people looking out for like when you got back? What was like when you got back to the jail after hearing like what was your mindset like after that? Like, what was like? Did you have a point like where I know like what was your plan now that you know you're not coming home? Did you have like a something like what do you do now? If that makes sense.
So at that time, because I had just endured, obviously to me it was a tragedy, right? It was traumatic.
Yeah, most definitely.
I wasn't prepared for that, so they were new feelings. So everything was new. I couldn't really plan for anything. I was more in a state of culture shock, right? My body was literally telling me like, oh my God, you're never gonna see your kids. You're never gonna be in Philly again. You're never gonna be married. You're never gonna do anything in your 30s. Like your life is over. So it was me processing all of that. It was more like emotional. And at the time, I didn't have emotional intelligence. So I was just really sad. I was really, really sad. And I went into a really, really bad depression, like a depression where I wasn't showering, I wasn't eating. And, the captain kept coming to my door and saying, like, you have to eat, Alvarado, you have to eat. And I was like, no, I'm okay. Because when you get so depressed like that, you really don't feel like you're depressed. You feel like you're okay. Like you're tired, you just sleep. So, that's what I went through. That was the process. It was horrible. I cried. I didn't even want to see my family. I told them not to come to the jail. It was like at that moment, it makes makes me emotional. Sorry. At that moment, it was like I started to like shut my heart down, right? Because I knew that I was going to be going up. I'm sorry, I'm crying.
No, it's cool. It's cool. You can be
Yeah,
honest. You
yeah,
can
no, no,
speak your
it's
truth
cool, yeah.
on here.
But it's like
You
I
can
knew
speak your
that I
truth
was
on
like
here.
going
We
up.
here with you. We
Yeah,
support you.
yeah. I was like knew that I was going up, and I was like, you know what? I just want to start shutting everybody out because I don't want to have these relationships and have to be emotional. You know, I've had people in prison in the past, and they say it's really hard, like dealing with like people you care about. So it's like, I wanted just to start closing everything down, and that's what I did. Like I really isolated myself a lot when I was upstate, and I just focused on my legal work. But I'll let you continue with the interview.
Mm. So what's the environment like? Like, was it for you? Like, was it a good standing? Like, were the people trying to try you?
So I grew up in North Philly, right? I'm really, really petite. I'm only 5'3", but I'm really sassy. So if
That's a
that,
fact.
I'm really, really sassy and I'm extremely assertive. And growing up in the Badlands, you know, it was really rough environment. So I do believe that where the environment wasn't good for, you know, conducive for a healthy mind, it did give me the street savviness that I needed to survive in prison and in jail. Of course, people like try me, right? But like I said, growing up in North Philly in the Badlands, I always knew that like, you know, a poker face is better than being super Joe laughing. So I wasn't none of that. I was really quiet. I was to myself. So I was kind of like an enigma if I had to describe myself. And sometimes, you know, people they don't know where to go with that, you know. So kind of like that's what I created for myself. And I did the 3 rules that they tell you is mind your business, don't snitch, and don't steal, right? And as
All
you
right.
follow those rules, you just kind of like breeze on through and not be, you know, too interactive too much because it could be considered a sign of weakness as well.
All right.
Mhm.
So, how long before you was in there after you got you got sentenced to life without parole? Did you start trying to get yourself out?
So for the record, as soon as I got locked up, buddy, I started hitting the law library. Like, you know, I'm from the
I can
streets and
see
I
that. I
know,
don't blame you. I don't
huh?
blame you. That's how you gotta be like that.
I was going to the law library with shackles and then cuffs all around from the beginning. So
So they had shackles on you and everything when they walked you down?
because I was on a high custody unit, so I was always 23 and 1. I did
Mm.
240 days in solitary confinement. So that's just 23. It's not 24 and 1 because I heard you say earlier it was 24. It's 23 hours locked in and you're out for 1 hour a day for exercising, depending if they have enough staff. So it's really,
Wow.
really isolated state. But yeah, I went to the law library from the very beginning. I have always been intellectually inclined. So, you know, knowledge I always knew was power. And I figured that, you know, if I was going to be fighting someone, I needed to understand the opponent. And that's when I went into the legal journey and started basically, you know, decided I wanted to fight back.
Mm. So you got into the law library.
Mhm.
How did you feel when you figured it out? Like every law, it's like a thing. Like you know me and you were law readers. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, for sure.
When you figure it, it's like when you look at your affidavit and then you see a mistake. You're like, is that like how did you feel when you figured it out? I would say, what was your
Well,
mind like?
what I figured out when our constitution was bullshit, that we didn't really have the laws that it says we have, right? So let's just dress the shit exactly for what it is. Um, it was mind blowing, and that's when I realized, like, oh my god, I've been living in an oblivious state where I'm not even worried about like what people in prison are going through. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of innocent people in here because of what I was going through, right? But in the
Word.
initial process, you're really not like you're figuring out stuff, but you really don't know like what you're figuring out, right? Because you're not a lawyer, you don't have that type of information. You just know the shit doesn't look right. But from the very beginning, I was charged with robbery, homicide, and the very first mistake that I found when I was going through my papers was that there was no
Up to
victim
it.
there was no victim to a robbery. So that's when I started to go on the journey. I'm like, well, hold on. If there's no victim to robbery, then that first degree murder must be dropped down to 2. That's how I started to learn. Like, there's no intent. I started to knock them down. As I went to knock them down and I went to murder 2, and I was like, okay, well, there's something called the corpus delicti, which is the body of the crime. And, you know, you must prove that there was a body of a crime. And without a robbery victim, right? Because with felony murder, the robbery would be the predicate felony. So they really want to prove
Word.
the homicide, they don't have to prove. right? Because the homicide stemmed from the robbery. But my point is that, you know, your 14th Amendment basically states that you have the right to face your accusers, right? It's your 14th Amendment
Word.
when you go in front of a jury of your peers. And when you cannot cross-examine a person that says, you know, that a crime has been committed against them, then how am I getting my 14th Amendment? How am I able to ask him, was he robbed? Was he not? And, you know, that's when I really realized, like, oh my God, this is crazy. How they could proceed and how the judge was denying all of my motions. And I was like, wow, they don't care about the truth. So.
Whoa, yo, can you explain that? Because a lot of people are programmed, like, and they will never accept that their law does not protect them. You know what I'm saying? And like, can you explain that more? Because like, because it sounds better when, because I always say stuff like that.
So
Exactly.
I'll start off by letting everyone know, right, that if you encounter the police, your Sixth Amendment right, if you decide to go to trial, right, then you could be judged by your peers or you could be judged by a judge, however you see fit, right? I was oblivious, so I thought that my peers were going to be amazing. I was like, wow, this is great. I'm going home. I didn't commit this crime, right? So now you go in front of 12 people who are very biased and they could be very emotional, very stereotypical. And even if the facts are not there, they could solely convict you on emotions, right? So you're exercising your Sixth Amendment right now to a trial, right? However, you're dealing with systemic issues that, you know, the jury's looking at you as being bad for just being on a drug corner where we grew up on drug corners, right? So now, like, you don't have the knowledge that you're facing that. So, you know, they withhold evidence. They violate Brady versus Maryland, which is the biggest case law for ineffective counsel, and they get away with it all the time. So when we believe and think that, hey, I have a Sixth Amendment right, you know, you can plead the Fifth and not say anything. However, they could still proceed with charges, and you would still have to encounter a jury of your peers. And I tell you right now, all of you guys, listen, please do not believe the hype. If you go in front of a jury trial and there's evidence that even if you don't believe that has enough weight, they could still push it through. And if there's an emotional juror, you're screwed. You know, and then when you challenge your appeals and you say, hey, you know, my Sixth Amendment was violated because you didn't give me this evidence, or my attorney didn't call for this witness, they're denying. So you really don't have, your constitutional rights really don't apply to us when you're poor and, you know, you're disenfranchised, because they want to protect pretty much their people, which is the 1%. So,
I agree. So if you part of that 1% on here and you listening, your constitution matters. But if you're part of the 99%, it really don't. You know what I mean? And I appreciate you for saying that. A lot of people won't be honest about the wrongs in our system, and they have to be fixed.
Well,
you know what I mean?
It's horrible.
And I mean, just like you said, a lot of just living in a certain area puts you in a bad situation. And if you don't know anything, Google redlining. You know what I mean? And that's literally another segregation based off of, you can't even get certain loan percentages. Your loan percentages are higher in the hood, and your rate and the money that you make is lower. You know what I mean? It's so set up for everybody to fail. So when you're going against court, going against believing that they're going to be on your side, you got to make them let you go, because they're getting paid by locking you up. You agree with that?
When you say they're getting paid for locking you up, you mean like they're benefiting from mass incarceration?
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay, yeah. So I completely agree. You know, that everybody that has a role, right, within corrections, or even lawyers and judges, they all have a hand in this, you know, mass incarceration. Even though some are against it, they're still benefiting from it. So capitalism doesn't allow them really to, you know, do the progression that they want, because they have to survive as well. So those are big problems too. You know, when we're talking about mass incarceration, we must identify capitalism, right, as well. But yes, I completely agree with you that the system is horrible. Our constitutions don't really apply to us when you're poor, when you're disenfranchised. Because if I was a really rich white woman at homicide, I would have probably been treated with charges that were more appropriately, right? Not these felony charges, not these capital charges. You know, no Miranda's being read and things like that. But yeah, I just want people to know that it could really happen to anyone. It doesn't really happen to a lot of people that are powerful and people that have money, because they treat them different. And then when you're in the system, it's really, really hard to get out. And even if you could prove your cases, trust me, they will still deny yourself. But I'm not sure if I answered your question. Did I stray a little bit?
You answered it perfectly. Okay, so now you beat the case, right? And now you coming home. How long before, I asked you this in the first interview, but for the people that didn't catch it, how long before you got approved to leave, did you actually leave the
Man,
jail?
it took a long time, bro. It took me 8 months for them to release me. I
Hold
was
on. So they let you. So they you beat the case, and then they let you go 8 months later.
Yeah. So what? Okay. So let me just explain because I had to learn this myself. So apparently, I won my federal habeas petition, right? And the judge could have done two things. He could have vacated my sentence, or he could have remanded it, right? Send it back to the state courts, let them fix it. Of course, that's not what I wanted because vacating it means throwing it out completely. However, the
Word.
problem with that is that the judge threw it out. The district attorney, they dropped the ball because they were supposed to drop the charges, right? And let me go home or let me maybe plead to a much lesser role, right? Something of that nature.
Word.
However, they left the homicide charges. And because I am a poor Latina who has went round one with the courts, I don't trust them. You know what I mean? So I was pretty much boxed into signing a freaking plea. And that took forever. It was a disaster because they were avoiding a lawsuit. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
it out because I just had life. I had life. I wasn't gonna risk going back with them again. I don't trust them. My cop was dirty. The judge misinstructed the jury. The jurors knew nothing about anything. I wouldn't take that chance again, even with the best evidence to come back because I had great evidence to come back in. I could have won, but I still didn't want to risk it.
I don't blame you.
Yeah,
You already go home, and they don't need nothing else.
yeah.
Okay, so you got out. What was the first thing you did when you got out? What you do? You go
Okay.
get some food? What you go do?
So so I didn't know exactly what time I was gonna get out, right? Because as soon as I got back from court, I was walking to my room. I was extremely freaking tired. The court is very draining forever. Whoever has went through it, I'm sure you know what I mean. But I was like getting myself together and I just hear my name like Alvarado, pack your shit. And I was like, I literally was on the pod for like 2 seconds. So it was just like random. Like my best friend was supposed to come get me a little bit later or wait for the call, but it was like, yo, you gotta come get me. They're letting me leave. So she like comes really quick. And I had an apartment. My little cousin Danny Garcia, shout out to you. He got me an apartment in which he funded it for a whole year. So it was like furnished. It was really nice. My friends made sure I had everything. So when I walked here, it was a Dr. McCorkle, some Villanova students, my best friend. I got dressed and we went to the Capitol Grill in New Jersey where they treated me for a dinner and we spoke and we had a really nice time. I felt a little bit out of place. I mean, I just had served so much time and I felt like even though I was dressed, I felt like everybody knew that I had State Browns on. It was really weird.
Okay, so I want to ask you this. Did people treat you different when you came home because of your charges?
Yes, yes, yes. So it's like one of those things like, you come home from prison and like you just have like this awkward feeling of like you're in a room and like something goes missing, you're like, fuck, are they gonna look at me? Like I was feeling like shit is missing. They can't find this shit. Like I hope they don't think it was me. Like, cause we get like bad names for shit like that. You know what I mean? So I had to live with those stereotypes and I had to live with a lot of people thinking I was institutionalized because I did spend a lot of time in prison and I really did not leave my room and I was in isolation like I talk about. And so I think a lot of those ways probably did affect me, but dealing
Word.
with people in like I'll give you an example. I was working in a really upscale Italian restaurant in Center City, Philadelphia. I did everything that I needed to do. Like I was busting my ass, because it was pretty upscale. And the manager loved me. He knew I had a conviction, but the owner was bourgeoisie, like typical rich, one percenter. And he didn't
Word.
like the reality that I had a murder conviction. He didn't care I was wrongfully convicted. Let me work the 2 weeks and just they let me go. And that's when I realized I was like, wow, like I'm literally labeled a freaking killer. Like, I'm labeled a killer and I didn't kill anyone. That's the crazy thing. Like,
Word. It'd be like that. Yo, listen. So right. So your next after that job. So what ended up you? Which was your first job? Did somebody end up like letting you go? Like, was it hard trying to find a job?
so okay, I'm gonna shout out right now my boy Chris from Angels on Call from healthcare, like who not only like assisted because I have a lot of problems with technology. Obviously, like I was in there, I'd never used technology in my life, so for me it was. And then in there, like lifers were not allowed to do schooling because of the money, and it was always for the people that were re-entering back into society. So I was never allowed in any classes, and it's horrible. But so the first job was with healthcare. It was very easy because they made it super, super easy because they understood my situation. However, I've been doing like a lot of nonprofit work since the first moment that I have been out. And that's very
Mm.
gratifying for me spiritually and emotionally. And I've been able to, get some traction where I've been paid for panels. and paid for reels about my political work. So, you know, where I don't make tons of money, I'm starting to see like things profit from the hard work that I do from my heart.
Word.
You know, if that makes any sense. And I don't
That's
need a lot of,
better.
I don't need a lot of money.
You don't need a lot of money.
I'm
You know,
good.
and it's so crazy. Yo, now that you've been in prison, you understand that for real. You can make people make anything out of anything. No, but when somebody wanted to ask you a question in the comments, they said, was there any moment while you were incarcerated that you thought you were never coming home?
Oh my God, a lot of times. Listen, one thing about a life without parole sentence, the best way to explain it is like a roller coaster. You wake up Monday, you super energetic. I'm going home Tuesday, I'm dying. Wednesday, I'm going home. You keep it up Thursday, by Friday, like I'm never leaving. Like, then you start seeing your comrades die from cancer, and they're innocent. You see, you know, a lot of women just ending their lives. You know, so yeah, a lot of days that I thought I was gonna die there because listen, the reality, if anybody is on the live from Pennsylvania, I want you to understand that in Pennsylvania for first degree murder and second degree murder is life without parole. There's no exceptions. If you decide to exercise your Sixth Amendment right like I did and go to trial, the mandatory sentences will be life without parole. So it's a very dangerous game. Um, it's something that I believe a lot of people should know, you know what I mean? But basically, oh God, I got lost. I got off track, sorry. What were you asking me?
Nah, you good. Now he said, what you kind of answered it.
All right,
Now
good.
I wanted to ask you something based off of it. What's your mindset like now that you know you have life without parole? Like, what is your mindset? Like, do you have to train your mind to think differently now?
Yeah. Yeah. So like I told you in the beginning, emotionally, I had to block out people that, right? I had to like close my heart down because I wasn't gonna do my time, do my legal work, and focus on a relationship, focus on people, right? So that was my mind, and it was a lot of it was a roller coaster. I used a lot of different philosophies in the beginning. Honestly, I used Jesus. Like for the first 7 years, it was all Christian TV, and that helped me to have the peace inside that the world told me I wasn't coming home. At least I knew I could control the inside, right? So I was using
Word.
that. I was using different things. I never ever said, like, you know, I'm gonna die here. I never spoke those words. I never said I'm never getting out. Everything that I spoke was positive. I'm going home.
Mm.
I'm just passing through. I'm gonna win. I promise you, I'll be home. It's like I spoke that for 12 years straight and I finally got it. Listen, it was not easy. I'm gonna tell you right now. There was a
Mm.
lot of
I
suicide thoughts. There was a lot of my comrades who ended their lives in very brutal and tragic ways. But I knew that I had to fight until the end because I was gonna die trying to get the hell out. And I knew that I was like, at least I'm gonna try to get out. But I knew that I wasn't gonna sit there and I wasn't gonna acclimate to the environment that I knew was not my home, right? And I never wanted to make it my home. So a part of me was angry, a lot of me was angry, and I had to come back to yoga and with a lot of love, you know, I had to keep feeding myself love because I felt so much anger for the racism because you know it was predominantly like rural white area. I'm a Latina from
Word.
the city, so even though they might think I'm white, the minute I open my mouth, they're like, "You're going behind the wall," like, you know. So it was
Mm.
a lot of different things I had to do to just stay strong. But my mind was always up and down, and then it was just like, you know what, manifestation and education, you know, and love. And I had to take it one moment at a time, but it was hard, but I was able to master it. I mean, 40 with no grades, I think I'm winning.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact. That 40 with no relation, I
Yeah, I
think
have
I'm
no
starting
gray
to get
hairs. I have no gray hairs. I'm winning.
it. Okay, so you say you did time in solitary. What is that like? You say you want to get rid of that, so I want you to explain people somebody, and it's actually dope that somebody actually been into something like that, and they go for somebody advocating to get rid of that period.
So the first thing that I could tell you about solitary confinement is, okay, I'll give you an example. I never have been in trouble. I was never in the jail like that. And, you know, they walked me to the room. There was nobody explaining to me what I was about to endure. I was completely clueless about I was just walking down with my orange jumpsuit, not thinking that it was a game, but not preparing for the next reality because I was just trying to look at my surroundings. But when the officer just slams the door and like walks away, and that was the last contact with a human that I had in like months. That
So
was it.
you didn't see not one person in 6 months.
Well, you see, like the pod's very little because it's a high custody. You see some interaction with inmates, like giving out trays, dumping trash, but that's about it.
Okay,
You know,
that's crazy.
yeah, it's very, so the door slams, and I'm like, at this point, I had an experience. It was like very horrible. Like my mind was not being able to wrap around that reality. It was like I was just pacing the room because I was like, what? Oh my God, I'm locked in here. I have no phone. I have no family, nobody to talk to. Like I have a murder bracelet here. And that's when I started to encounter a lot of suicidal thoughts. And like, I just kept hearing like little voices telling me to like hang myself in the cell. And I was just like, I can't do that. Like, it was just constant. And that's why I advocate against it, because, you know, when I went upstate and I started to see my comrades end their lives in solitary, I started to think about the same voices I heard in the county. I was like, my God, those voices were like real. Like, you know, some people do hear those voices and some people succumb to them. Thankfully that I kept in the moment and I just kept pushing, you know, but not everybody's strong. And those walls, they isolate you, they're dehumanizing. They cause, after 15 days, it causes irreversible brain damage. And the scientists could prove that. So what we're doing is we're arresting people, we're putting them in solitary, and then they have to live out here with us. Where I am an abolitionist and I do want to end solitary and life without parole, right? We also we have to hold people accountable. However, we cannot destroy them while they're in prison. And that's what solitary does. People are not the same when they leave solitary. It's it'll make your mind bend. It's just, you have a lot of time to think and you start to hallucinate, you hear voices, you know, you degrade as a human. It's really horrible. And that's why I fight to end it.
Somebody posted Pennsylvania border pardons destined for Brian Parnell. That's what's up. Justice for Brian Parnell. I don't know what he did. I gotta see what he did or nothing, or what they did to him. You know what I mean? But justice for him if he needs it. Okay, so now that you're going on, so did you link with anybody when you first came home about what made you, like, you have a team now trying to fight? So who you working with right now?
So right now, like, I'll explain to you, like, a lot of us that are out here, you know, that are the vanguards for change, for our comrades, we were doing this work from inside. So it's like-minded people who have been doing this work. So when I came out, I made the newspaper, and my name, I guess, was getting out there a little bit to people. And right before, it's really ironic, about a year before I overturned my conviction, I did a program with this man named Dr. William Goldsby from North Philly, who's a genius Black man who rolled out this program upstate for like a year. It was called Community Capacity Building. So I met him in the prison, and I was just in awe with his brilliance of his mind, right? So I did his program. When he left, he wrote me a letter and he was like, listen, I was very impressed with your mind. I was very impressed that you participated in the group, X, Y, and Z. And he's blind, so he wasn't like checking me out. It was just all love, you know what I mean? So he heard that I got out of prison, and he had someone contact me, and he was like, listen, I want you to be the chairperson of the organization Fight for Lifers, which, you know, he founded with 2 other lifers, and that's how Fight for Lifers became, you know, an organization. And he loved the organization. So I was like, you know what, I'll do it. Like, he believes in me. I did it for like 6 months. And this was a lot of discipline, a lot of phone calls to families, a lot of learning how to write grants, and basically fight systemic issues, right? Because that's what we're abolitionists, and we want to change things systemically. Where we want to help the families, we really can't do that. We have to stay focused on the core mission of removing life without parole and having parole eligibility in Pennsylvania. So I did that for 6 months. And I just started to do my Instagram. My Instagram was my platform to talk about everything. My very first video was my experience of when I got on the train for the first time and all that time. And I didn't even know how to buy the token or the bus pass. I literally cried at the machine. I was so embarrassed. And I didn't know who to ask for help. Nobody was receptive. Nobody. So that's just what I started to do. And I was like, you know what? I have a voice. I'm going to use it. And, you know, my organization started to see that. And then we started to collaborate. And we all have the same mission, is to bring our comrades home, right? And that's what we're doing, and we're not going to stop. We are a movement we're a force to be reckoned with, put it like that.
Somebody in the comment, my boy Ruthie 411 said, they treat animals better than humans. Solitary confinement needs to go. How can this country allow these things to happen and expect people to come out and be okay? That is a fact. Yeah. Would you say after 15 days, yes, it causes what?
Irreversible damage to the brain.
Oh, and another thing too, I want to speak while we're speaking on solitary confinement. Your comrade did 37 years in solitary.
Actually, the other day he corrected me. Chataway, if you're on here, I love you. Actually, he did 44 years. So what happened was he did 37 at one time, and then I believe he did probably 4 at another time. So let me tell you a little bit quick about him, which is, his story is like mind blowing, and I would love to bring him on our big, what is it, our app?
Uncommon Knowledge on Bigo.
Yeah, on Bigo. I would love to bring him there because
always. I can't hear you.
In solitary.
There you go.
I'm sorry. Not only did he
you went in and out. You got to start over. You went in and out real fast. Start over.
All right, my bad. So basically, not only did he do 37 years, 44 years, he was innocent. Literally, like, he did not commit the crime. And the person who committed the crime in his case was offered a deal for 7 years, which he took. So my comrade exercised the Sixth Amendment right like myself, because we were oblivious to all of the corruption, because we didn't encounter the system before. So
Wow.
he literally, there was a evidence stating that someone else, that it wasn't him, and the police had that all that time, and they were hiding it in the roundhouse in Philadelphia. And after like all these years, when Larry Krasner went in there, they started to investigate cases, and they found that evidence. They contacted his lawyers.
Wow.
He was able
Shout
to
out
get
to
out.
them.
Yeah, that's how he was able to get out. But it's things like that as to why solitary needs to go, because it not only causes irreversible damage, but there's a lot of innocent people and wrongfully convicted people in prison. And nobody should be in solitary confinement. I'll tell you why. Because losing your liberty is the real punishment. And that means
Yep.
once you are isolated from your community, that's the only thing that prison is supposed to address, and then it's supposed to rehabilitate you. It's not supposed to be torture and inhumane treatment, and that is a violation of your constitutional rights, that you are not supposed to be treated like that. And they're getting away with it because it perpetuates hate, and it perpetuates the status quo, and they want to just leave us in there and forget about us. And that's why I hope that, I don't know why the screen keeps going out. I'm not, like, I just want everybody to know how serious the system is. It's not a game. Once you encounter, even if you're innocent, I promise you, a lot of my comrades are innocent. So just be very mindful and educate yourself on the laws. And if you encounter the police, don't say a word. Ask them if you're under arrest. And if they say no, you can walk away. And if they don't let you walk away, you plead the fifth and you ask for a lawyer and you say nothing. Then now you're going to be screwed.
You heard that? Ask for a lawyer and say nothing.
Say nothing.
Don't go in there and be one of them guys that just talk and be in jail, and you end up talking to your comrades into more cases. My man Route 21 said, can we also talk about how Pennsylvania you have to be 20 years old to buy alcohol, cigarettes, go to casinos, to have a gun license. You stay on your, but you also can stay on your parents' insurance policy until 21.
I'm sorry, I'm just plugging in my phone so it doesn't die.
Okay. Now, Ruthie 411 said, can we also talk about how in Pennsylvania you have to be 21 years old to buy alcohol, cigarettes, go to casinos, have a gun license. You also can stay on your parents' insurance till 21. However.
But let me counter that for you, homie. So not only did I be 21 for that, but literally Philadelphia has sentenced the most children to die in the world.
Yo, Pennsylvania is bad for that.
Not Pennsylvania. I want to, for the record, it was Philadelphia.
Oh my God.
Philadelphia,
Please.
not Pennsylvania. Philadelphia has sentenced the most children to die in the world. And what I mean is, before 2012, before the Miller v. Alabama ruling, right, which made unconstitutional life without parole, law of the land, they were giving kids life without parole. And Philadelphia was responsible for 500 of those cases. And a lot of those people were innocent and wrongfully convicted. So shame on all the past administrations, Lynn Abraham, Roger King, and all of you people who have done this to generations and generations. It's freaking horrible. But yeah, you have to be 21, but yeah, you could go to prison as a kid. You know, our system is horrible. That's why I tell people, listen, don't smoke, don't even drink. You know, combat them in every way. Use all your mental strategies and stay happy and positive. And when you want to mess up, you say, you know what, I'm not going to ruin my life for you, because that's what they want. That's what they want us to do. And we keep giving them what they want.
And that going, and if you want to hear more about that, leads right into what we're going to talk about tomorrow. And like I said, for you to look out for me and Cynthia Alvarado, prison abolitionist, you know what I'm saying, freedom fighter. Yep, you strong. You know that, right?
I'm really strong.
You know that. Right? You strong. Like for you to come from this to where you at, shining happy. There's people that's been home their whole life and still ain't happy as you.
You know what the trick to that is? Is staying in the freaking moment. Just stay in the moment and just be grateful about everything, bro. And if you do that every day, all over and over again, you'll never be sad.
He said there's also scientific research that shows there is no difference in the brain of 18 and 20. Yeah, well, I can see that.
Wait, he said
listen, there wasn't too much different things I was doing at 8 to 20.
Yeah, so it should still be like allowed, right? Or at 18 then.
But like we were saying, if you don't have the Beagle app, BIGO, download it. Uncommon Knowledge, first episode tomorrow. Me and Cynthia every Wednesday at 9 on the Beagle Live app. So Make sure you tune in. We're gonna be talking about a lot of stuff. We're gonna be breaking down a lot of stuff. We're gonna be showing you how to handle yourself. Another thing too, before I go to the next thing, what would you say what rights should you know as a black or brown person if the cop pull up on you? What rights and laws should you have and understand?
The first thing that you have to understand is that you have, like, your Fifth Amendment right, which I advise you to always invoke. That means basically shut the fuck up. Shut up, period. Because even if you try to be, oh, sir, I was just walking around the corner, I was trying to help my mom, that turns into a whole nother dilemma. The very first thing I tell people, if you encounter the police, even if you have whatever it is around you, you ask them, if he doesn't let you leave or he's holding you, against your will, you ask them, officer, am I under arrest? And basically, if he tells you no, then that means you have the freedom to leave, right? So if he doesn't let you leave, then you're like, okay, then I'm under arrest. And that's when you invoke your Fifth Amendment right to just remain silent. Ask for a lawyer, always ask for a lawyer, and just remain silent. Don't say nothing. I promise you it'll work out better later, because you're going to make a lot of trouble for your lawyers trying to fix the statements, because they're going to twist, they're going to turn. You got to remember, they're trying to perpetuate this system to feed their great grandchildren and keep us all in there. So we have to be very tactical, and we have to know our shit, right? And the other ones apply more when you're going to trial and things like that.
And then I always tell people this too: if you own a corner trapping, this is the right you should know. If you and your homies all got crack on y'all, right? Let's just say you had crack on y'all. I'm not saying who do, because there's definitely some people in the comments that might have some on them. I'm just saying, yo, if all your homies run, let them run. Don't give them probable cause, because you're on a public ground and they have no rights to search and seizure. If you move weird, you're giving them probable cause to search you. Your homies gave them probable cause. You go tell them. You don't even say anything, like you said. You shut up. You know what I'm saying? And you let them go chase them, because they can't legally do anything. They literally use everything you say against you. That's a fact. That's just what it is. That's just a fact. Yo, watch what is it, first 48?
Yo,
they literally use everything, like from the street cameras, everything to get you. But I want to get more into your story. What's next for you?
So, I feel like I always keep the same philosophy like I did in prison. Just keep going straight ahead. Just keep going forward, I say, like, my goal is to continue with my abolition work and with my advocacy nonstop, and allow the universe to manifest to me all the things that are meant for me, right? And the places I'm supposed to go and the people I'm supposed to touch. In the meantime, I'll be healing people, because that's what I do with my community. Like, even if we heal one person at a time, if we change ourselves and then start to change others, it's how we can make a lot of changes and keep people out of prison so they can have more healing and they deal with their emotions better. Obviously, I'm gonna be testifying to end solitary confinement in DC very soon. So I'm hoping that by the end of maybe the beginning of next year, that solitary confinement is at least brought down to no more than 15 days, because right now they could give them 30 days straight and then they could keep tagging on more days. But and continue to fight to bring the parole eligibility in Pennsylvania. So that's my mission, and that's what I'm on right now. But continuously growing and healing with a lot of people and myself.
But I don't want to hold you on here too long. Should I give them your Instagrams and shout out them before we go?
Oh, my Instagram is Cynthia Alvarado Media. I had an old Instagram, _Cynthia_Alvarado 221. But there's he's a hacker. He stole my Instagram, so he's had it for like a month, guys. So if you go on there, you can look at my stuff. But don't let him talk to you on the DM, because he's gonna try to steal it.
And let them know your Beagle ID and all that, so when they find you on Beagle.
On Beagle, it's gonna be Sin City, and it's Cynthia Alvarado M.
I got it. So add her on Beagle, and make sure you catch our Beagle show every Wednesday at 9. Uncommon Knowledge. It's your boy K Brown, CEO, host of KNT Radio, model agent of the stars, gang.
Yes.
Thanks for watching KNT Radio. Hit that like and subscribe button for more content like this. Gang.